Yeah, I think there's majority support.
Majority is different in every case.
Use your microphone, Mike.
I believe the majority may be different in every case for every item, so when you add all the items up, you don't have a majority at all. Unless we do individual items one at a time.
I think
So
we kind of parsed that out, but can you be a little more specific?
Yeah, for the door, I believe that I'm for the door, that you're for the door, that Sarah's for the door. I do not know if Patrick's for the door or Kathleen is for the door.
No, I did say I was for the door.
Okay, Kathleen's for the door, Patrick?
We're not voting yet.
No, but we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, we're not going to do a straw vote just yet. Okay,
And how
so
about the fire lane only?
well, I think there's majority support for fire lane. I don't think we need to do a straw vote. I think this would be more appropriately done in the form of a motion, which would have to be, clearly stated, of course. The outcome of this is we're going to have, I think, a follow-up council meeting to appropriately document and write up the council action tonight. And I'm going to look to Mr. McLaughlin. Is that something feasibly done in the near future?
I don't want to speak for the planning director, but I believe we have sufficient information on the two items, the door and the driveway, to craft potentially, for example, additional conditions of approval based on what I heard the council majority state.
Okay.
Now, that would not be in final form, so if it came back, you could fine-tune it in areas where there still may be some ambiguity, such as numbers of doors, for example. But we wouldn't necessarily have to define that tonight because we have enough to know where the majority of the council is going on the driveway issue and the door issue. We also know on the height issue, it seems to now be a non-issue. So if you wanted to go ahead and craft a motion for that, I believe we could come back with either findings or conditions, whatever is appropriate to your motion. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Slater.
And perhaps one of the other issues that we've discussed is the level of detail for the bank building.
Okay, and yeah, help us out on that one because that is not nearly as clearly defined, I think, as the door and the driveway. I'm looking at you, Mr. Slater.
Yeah, it's not defined. I was listening. You're right. It's totally subjective.
I think the expression was it's not defined at all. That's the ripple that I heard up here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we just haven't talked about it and it's almost midnight.
Yeah. So are we going to discuss the status of the appeal?
Well, I think what I might have misread or misheard Councilmember Gurney and Slater, but on the bank building, I think we need to kind of narrow it down a little bit. What are we gonna? What's the consensus on the bank building relative to the appeal? As a condition of approval, do we want to impose a condition of approval that certain things happen relative to the bank building? Or if we're going to deny the appeal, are we going to state a position relative to the bank building? Or is that what you were indicating just now?
I'm not quite sure how to articulate that. The natural design review process perhaps well-articulated findings are a little bit more rare in that world, where the design review board might say, oh, well, what if you tried this, what if you try that, the applicant goes away, tries something, brings it back, and it's just sort of the natural give and take of the process. And I'm not quite sure how to clearly articulate that, and I don't know if there's a majority on the council that wants additional design work for the bank building. So I don't know how that gets articulated.
Okay, Councilmember Gurney.
Well, and it's sort of like after 6 hours at midnight, how much more can you really ask us to do that we would do well? I think the bank building's been left out of the conversation. My sense is, from the few comments we've made, that it's just sort of a little too plain or a little too boxy and it needs more articulation or frosting. We don't have the brain power right now to figure that out. That's my impression of you guys. You know, it's been 6 hours, and so we've got to kind of hold that aside. I understood Councilmember Slater to be saying that give and take in conversation is what the design review board usually does. And it flows and it happens and it gets fixed, and I mean, I